At-risk students' perceptions of traditional schools and a solution-focused public alternative school. I know every one of my articles that I cover, I always say this is the really good article, but I don't know. I think I'm kind of nerdy, and I like good articles. So, but obviously, this is a good article because it is what they call a mixed method, but they really rely on what a qualitative. A mixed method research article uses qualitative and quantitative research, and what they did with this one is they kind of did a mixed method, but what means they did some quantitative, some numbers, but they also did a qualitative where they did some interviews. What they were looking at is how students in alternative schools differ and how their mindsets are. As you roll through the research and everything, it says research trends with No Child Left Behind. Once again, we see that term No Child Left Behind. It affects curriculum every day when we're teaching it. But with No Child Left Behind, we have a more of a focus on at-risk students because at-risk students are supposed to be tended to and addressed in No Child Left Behind. Once again, in the past, when it came time to do statistical analysis of students' scores, some school districts could shuffle a student either into self-contained special education or alternative schools, and they would really try to hide the student from quantitative numbers so that the students wouldn't be able to be quantified and therefore hurt their numbers. It says on average these students, but we cannot do that anymore with No Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind, we have to address every student and every student's needs. On average, alternative students score significantly lower than do their peers on standardized tests. So this article starts saying, well, let's get into the world of the alternate route student. It says preventing academic failure and school dropout for at-risk students is a significant task for schools because at-risk students make up a large portions of the student population. Now remember, at-risk means at risk of causing complications that will ultimately make you drop out. You can have at-risk categories on us as a student and still be very successful. For example, if your mom and your dad have a divorce, you are now an at-risk student according to the data, according to the research, because it is harder as a single parent to raise that child. So you have one more category of being an at-risk. However, if you were divorced, your parents were divorced, and your mom or your dad raised you, and you graduated college, then your mom really worked hard, your dad really worked hard, you did a good job. Many times you can overcome some of those at risk. If you're born in the inner city, if you're born below the poverty line, you have more at risk. So students who are in the alternative school are at risk of dropping out because they are in the alternative school. We're also definitely seeing more of an ethnic group in the alternative schools. We're going to need to address that. It says when students drop out of school, the consequences are severe and long-lasting. This paragraph right here talks about school dropouts are more likely to be depressed. They feel isolated and they use drugs and alcohol. They're more likely to join gangs, commit acts of violence, and become incarcerated. Over time, dropouts are more likely to be unemployed or earn lower salaries than those who graduated from high school. So all of this, I like this article just so whenever you're writing a research article one day, they have a very strong topic sentence when students drop out of school, and then that paragraph they discuss that topic. Here it says the U.S. education system has created alternative schools to decrease the number of at-risk students leaving schools prematurely and serve these students by using different methods. And then it talks about the alternate route programs in the United States. Here it says, although many researchers have explored the public school characteristics that help at-risk students complete the high schools, the research on alternative schools is limited. So this paragraph is talking about how the research in alternative school is limited. And as you scroll down, it says the research in qualitative is also scarce. So what this paper has done is done a review of LIT, which talks about alternative school, it talks about why at-risk students, who drop out they go into depression. This talks about the consequences. This talks about some of the research which is scarce. This talks about some of the qualitative research which is scarce. And then this leads to them saying, okay, well, here's our study. So a very compact, a very good little research and a review of LIT. So what they've decided to do was the purpose of the study was to examine the traditional and alternate route school experiences of at-risk students currently attending a public alternative school that was designed using the practice methods and philosophy of a solution-focused brief therapy. So what that is called a module school or a lab school. They found an alternative school that they could do their research on. So it was kind of a good little situation for them. Their method was they went to Austin, Texas. I'm assuming this is Texas. It's got to be because Austin, obviously, and this person right here is from Texas. So I would assume that they're from Texas. Just a little side note for many people who always wonder about this. Um, this is known as the primary author. Theirs is the first name on the paper, and these are secondary authors. Primary author means that you're the number one author, and that helps you on your research. To be a secondary author doesn't hurt. It does not weigh as much as primary. However, secondary authors show that you work well with groups. On my resume, I have some primary authors and also have a couple where I'm secondary. But what you want to do is when you're doing a research article with anyone, you just want to, if they say, hey, you want to write together, then you need to go ahead and get this out of the way and say, okay, I want to be primary. And just tell them, explain that to them very clearly. Or say, you do all the work and you be primary. Just something to help you as you research. The purpose of the study was to explore the mindset of the alternative school. The method was they interviewed at Austin, Texas. The data was collected through in-person interviews. The big question mark with in-person interviews is, are you going to train the interviewer? And they did. And they actually did 45 to 60 minutes were conducted by either a trained doctoral student or a trained school social worker using a semi-structural interview guide. What does semi-structured mean? That means that they had some questions they asked, and then they had where the students could also expand from that. It's a lot of time to ask 45 to 60 minutes, but that's actually pretty impressive. They had their questions right here, and then the results. They used a case study approach where they coded the data, really easy to do. Results, the themes, they looked at themes here. One was poor teacher relationships. The students said that they did not feel like they had a good relationship with their teacher in alternative schools. And look at these quotes. They only look at bad things you do. They did not look at the good things that you do. And over here, lack of safety. Rather than viewing a school as a safe haven, many students describe their schools as hostile. One student said, as soon as I walked into school, I would tense up. There was tension in the air. Environment is a lot. I think it influences a lot. As compared to Mississippi State University, when you go to Mississippi State University, you don't tense up, but you go, okay, I'm here. You may say, oh, I don't want to be here, but you don't tense up going, there's going to be a fight or anything. So we see this at alternative schools a lot. School violence right here. Problems with peer relationships. So these students are having trouble fitting in, and they're feeling alienated within their own cliques. So you have an issue where the teacher's not spending much time, lack of safety, and problems with peer relationships. This next part, you can go ahead and skip, and I'll just go ahead and say it. They're talking about the experiences of the alternative school in Austin and how it was very positive. So they're trying to say this is just a very good positive school and we've done very well. That's fine. But I like the discussion with implementations, and they did something really nice right here. They talked about, this is their suggestions for working with at-risk students, and they create a chart here of what you should do and how you should do it. This is really good. Now the reason I say skip this, with what this probably was, and I'm just guessing, is they probably received a federal grant to create this alternative school or whatever. They received some money, and one part of the grant was to write a research based about their grant experience. So they did a research right here, and then they go, okay, now let me show you how good our alternative school is. Okay, that's fine. I believe you, but you can just read that and show what good is. But this is the best part of the article. It talks about what you can do to help alternative schools. You can show you are willing to talk to students about their out-of-school issues, institute reasonable rules, expectations, and consequences, work with school counselors or social workers. So this might be something that's just really, I really like that idea that you can do this whole do section and the avoid section. So The article continues on and it gives you a breakdown, make homeschool connections. All of these are good, and the article does a really good job. Overall, the students in the study felt that they had benefited from the alternative school at Austin. So let's say in the long run, you've got this article from 2011, and your principal says, we need a better alternative school. What do you think? And you could say, well, I know that we need to have an alternative school that's based on these recommendations. And if he says, hey, I've got a little extra money, would you like to go to Austin and tour that one? Then that'd be even better. See, so this is a really good, I really like these articles. I know you're tired of me saying it's a really good article, but I like this article because it puts us in the mind of an alternate route student. So when we develop curriculum, we can be more aligned with these key points that this article points out. So hopefully you got this when you read it, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you.